Mm-hmm. Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is the big Friday in the Riv. The day they picked up your trash a day late. So everybody who blew their trash off this week because they got the wrong day, put it out too early, or forgot, well, it's too late. They just picked up mine a day late, but I had it out. Hope everybody's staying cool and staying.
They still haven't picked up mine.
Yeah. I hope everybody survived this weather. It was pretty oppressive. I guess yesterday broke a record. It was for 600 and some days. It's the hottest day on that particular day in over 2 years. So around 2 years. So it was pretty oppressive out there. If you got out in the sun, if you kind of stayed out of the sun, it was survivable.
You know, a Providence construction worker collapsed because of the heat. And, you know, this is why we keep saying to people, hydrate, get out of the heat, stay cool. Yeah. Today we've got a little relief. It's not supposed to be as hot, but it's still going to be hot with the humidity. And then later on this afternoon, we're supposed to get some heavy thunderstorms. So, again, hydrate, try to stay cool. And obviously, you're going to stay out of the rain. There you go. And obviously, you're going to stay out of the rain later. So,
that's the key. You got to hydrate, and you got to get out of the sun. If you're working there for a while, you shouldn't be working unless you absolutely have to be in that thing. But you have to really stay well hydrated. It's people have no idea how quickly hydrate. In weather like this, it'll just suck the moisture right out of your body, and it is what it is. But I guess we've had a little. We had some talk about that last interfaith meeting, but that segued into, I guess, a Facebook, some kind of. And I don't do Facebook, but
I know you don't.
A lot of these, you got the Cooganites trying to spin everything, and the reality is, I guess someone talked about Carol Fiola, and you slapped them down a little bit. But listen, we've just confirmed from a very reliable source that now there's not $400 million in a budget for affordable housing. Now there's $800 million. The governor's going to put $800 million for affordable housing. So Carol's talking about $10 million or whatever earmark for. I don't care what you earmark anything for.
Right.
We're going to give you examples of why that's bullshit.
I'll give you one. 1616 Pleasant Street. The architect said to the mayor, how many affordable housing units would you like? I don't want affordable housing here. I want to clean up this neighborhood. I want them out of here. Well, okay? Yeah. So guess what? He doesn't think you're worth anything. You're dirt under his foot. Well, you're the pile of crap he stepped in the park.
We all know that because he told somebody to shut up because he lived in public housing. Like, that's a disgrace. Well, if you have the income level there, maybe that's the place exactly you need to be until you can get your life in order and earn more money, to get out of the public housing. Workforce housing, the same way. All these housing different options are there for a specific reason. And affordable housing is the most important of all of those. Obviously, it's important to have people with low income have housing. Obviously, it's important with people who have a kind of median income to have a housing. But the people that need it the most, and the people you have to really feel the worst about, are the people who are working 2 jobs, some 3 jobs, and still have to skip a meal. And they can't afford the rent. These are the people that are being pushed out. It's a national crisis. You see it all the time. But to segue back into these bullshit promises politicians always make, I got a couple that I made. It was fortuitous. It came up, and I saw the presentation on it. This is what happens when you got people like Carol Fiala, when her own husband said, I have no interest in this housing, says, oh, yeah, we're looking for it. Yeah, you're right, Jeff. Even 2 or 3 jobs is not enough, because you got about enough later on to not even pay your gas bill or any other kind of bill, or actually feed yourself, because do the math with the median income in Fall River. But again, here's some promises, okay? We told you a previous show about the 7 billion, that's right, billion with a B, that Biden put aside, and he said, we're going to build charging stations all over the country because we got this EV stuff. Well, to date, there have been 7 EV stations built. 7. So that means the 7 that have been built have cost $1 billion a piece. Why don't they build them? Because of all the regulations, all the other regulations, and all the things they try to slide in. You got to have DEI. You got to have this. You got to have that. Government, they never wanted to spend it at all. $7 billion, and you get 7 stations in the entire United States built with $7 billion. We talked about the $24 billion they had in San Francisco for the homeless, and not one homeless person has been taken off the streets. Now I got another one for everybody. And that's the difference between us and these other people that are talking about, why didn't they do this? Why didn't he do this? Why didn't Carlos do that? Why didn't Kathy Assad do this, or whatever? Whoever name they want to invoke, I'll tell you why they're not the mayor. You're a neighborhood leader. All you can do is complain and try to advocate for your neighborhood. The mayor's supposed to be the one. Not how long has Coogan been talking about the Flint? I went to the meeting of that Lady of Light band when we were talking about affordable housing, and that was what? 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
Yep.
And then how many times has he talked about the Flint, the revive, and nothing has been done? And he's the mayor. He's somebody who can actually do something about it. So all you people that are trying to advocate for him, why didn't they do this? Why didn't he do? Well, I'll tell you what. Let Carlos take over the city budget. Let him earmark the money, and he'll make sure that he does stuff in the Flint. You want the people in the Flint who can't afford their rent and don't have 2 nickels to rub together to pay for this? No, it's up to the person who was elected to take care of the people in his city. Not the people they want to move into this city, or the rich people who are their friends. So now back to the statistics. In 2021, Biden, and I saw the video, announced it. High-speed internet for everybody. Every corner of the United States will have affordable internet. I don't care if you live in a mountain in Alaska. You're going to have internet. You're going to have high-speed internet. The government is going to do this. And they put $48 billion for this internet. And then 21. Remember what year we're in now? 21. The politicians like Carol. I put $10 million away for us. See how great I am? I put $48 billion away for internet for everybody in the United States is going to have internet. I don't care how poor you are, you're going to have the internet.
What's interesting about that internet claim?
Yeah.
This year in April, the federal government cut the ACP program, which was the Internet Connectivity Program.
Yeah.
And they cut it. So people can't afford internet.
Well,
they used to give $30 a month towards free internet.
Well, they were supposed to spend this $48 billion, CJ, to kind of bring it into a. But this is what you had. 2021, Biden made these claims, like Carol Fire was doing. Oh, wait, $10 million. Look what I did. I gave you money that nobody's going to use to help you. Great window dressing. Now, 2023, Kamala, is that the right? I know she's always complaining about people who can't pronounce her first name. So I'll tell you what, I don't like to have my name mispronounced. So we'll just call her Vice President Harris, again in 2023, promised the internet again. The internet's coming, it's coming. The checks in the mail and internet's coming. Well, 2 years, 2 years after, actually almost 3 years now since Biden said it, nearly 2 years since she said it, and $42 billion appropriated. Not one single connection to the internet under that program has been made. Not one. $42 billion. Not one connection. You know why? You know what they put in with it? DEI regulations, Green Deal. The companies that they wanted to hire to lay that internet stuff can't do it because they don't have the people. They're not going to be hiring people from every demographic that the wokies want to have hired, whether they can do the job or not. It's going to take them 10 years. They got people that work for the job, but they won't let them. Government, again, interfering with their bullshit regulations. $42 million they promised. Just like the city of Fall River. We got $400 million. Now we got $800 million for affordable housing. Carol Fiola's earmarked $10 million. Oh, look what I did. Look what I did. It's no good if you don't use it. I don't care how much you earmark. When you tell everybody, I don't want to do this, and you can give me all the money available you want, if I'm not going to go take that money and use it for the betterment of the people that I represent, it does absolutely no good. That was no more than political posturing. At least Schmid had enough integrity to just go up there and make a bullshit speech and run out of the building like his ass was on fire. No questions, no nothing. Oh, I got to go to a meeting. See you later. Don't ask me any questions about affordable housing. He did the same thing at a Lady of Light band. He was there. He didn't say boo. So listen, anybody that tells you they want something, they want to do something. Remember Charlie Reese's comment. If the Democrats and the Republicans want low taxes, why don't we have low taxes? Because they don't want to do that. They play off each other. They lie. If they're in favor of a balanced budget, why don't we have a balanced budget? They're all full of shit. I'm sorry. That's what it is. You're getting a giant mudslide, and it ain't mud. That's all they ever do is promise you. Remember the promise. I'm going to lower taxes. I'm going to give you money back. Coogan did that. These people, all they do is make promises they don't keep and then never held accountable. $42 million for internet in 21. Not one stinking internet. What do we got? 350 million people now in the United States. Not one of them got low-cost internet. Not one of them. 7 charging stations. 3 years after they talked about it, and $7 billion appropriated for it. So what good is that? This is what they're doing. They're conning you. And then somebody in that Facebook, I didn't read it. I'm going to, I'll say it secondhand. Oh, they're going to put plywood up with artwork on it. So let's get into the reality of that. One man's art is another man's graffiti. And that's a truism. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Those are only semantics. What do boarded up windows mean? derelict, vacant buildings. So don't give you whoever was put that bullshit on Facebook better get a grip on reality. That's not going to fix the Flint. Plywood on the windows. Plywood on the windows signifies that nothing's going on behind those windows. Show me somebody's house that has their windows plywooded in. I'll show you somebody that needs, to go get some serious mental counseling. Nobody boards up windows. After a fire, we used to board up windows. Vacant buildings board up windows to stop people from breaking in. You're actually going to have the audacity, the unmitigated gall to say that is a good thing? Try to spin that boarding up windows and painting pictures on them is better? No, it isn't. To you, that's art. To me, it's graffiti. I hate art. I used to argue with an art major all the time. They used to try to explain to me how, the composition, this and that. You know what I said to them? And it's my own opinion. I'm not telling you can love art. My philosophy is as soon as they invented the camera, art should have ceased to exist. A camera takes a perfect snapshot of exactly what you're doing. When somebody paints it, it's never perfect. As soon as they invented the camera, there should be no more artwork. That's just a con. They get rich people to buy it. They got some guy that paints something. You don't even know what it is. You're looking at it. You're going, holy Jesus, what is this? Oh, $10 million for this. Okay, I'm going to hang it in my house and all my rich friends will be impressed. Hey, everybody's got a different, but that's my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. It's my opinion. I don't go to art museums. I took art history in college. I can tell the difference between a Cezanne and the other artists. You can chop is and Gauguin and all the rest of them. I can tell a difference, but I have no desire. It doesn't do anything for me. It's like, okay, it's a picture. And it's not as good as if I went to that field and took a picture of that field. So that's my own opinion. You can be entitled to love art. It's fine. I'm not going to condemn you for loving art, but don't condemn me for saying I'd rather see a photograph of it. But this is the thing about these people. They try to bullshit their way through everything. Let's make the accountability and responsibility go who has the accountability and responsibility because it's their job. And that is, whether it's Paul Coogan right now or any other mayor, it's their job to make this city better. The neighborhood leaders are trying to advocate for their neighborhood, but they do not have the resources. It's about priorities. And this city, the last priority that this mayor has is the people of Fall River. And with that, CJ, back to you.
Have you read some of these comments? It's very interesting. You're talking about art. Are you ready for this? The city, I'm going to show you Mr. X's comment. We've talked about this on the show. The city is going to have a mural painted at the intersection of South Main and Bradford Avenue, and that's going to make it safe. $25,000 to paint a mural, and it's called asphalt art. It's more like ass art to me. But that's going to make the intersection safe.
Look, these wokies and their solutions to everything. It's like giving the junkies needles and wondering why they stay on dope. Don't help them. Don't give them counseling. Don't do, like I said, they spent it was actually billion. I said million. It was billion, $24 billion to try to eliminate a home. Did they build a shelter? Did they try to get these people off the street? No, not one person has been housed. These people are all full of crap. You know that. And this mural crap, this is yuppie stuff. Like I said, you think the guy that can't make his rent is worried about a mural? You think those people? Well, wasn't there a stabbing? We had a shooting and a stabbing. Now
Yes.
we got a stabbing.
Well, I was just going to bring that up. Linda Mead brought it up when you were speaking about the shots fired over at Quikasham Street, over at the Kathy Assad playground. Although what they did was they reported it as the Wamsutta playground. That playground's been the Wamsutta playground, the Quikasham playground, Quikasham tot lot, the Massasoit playground. Now it's the Kathy Assad playground. It's changed names, but the shooting still happened. 21-year-old man shot in the leg. Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
And that shooting counts because it went into somebody. Remember, that was
Yeah, well,
it went into
New York
somebody.
City. But look,
Yeah.
that's my old neighborhood. And the thing is, I know there's been a lot of names, but your names are all kind of close. Wamsutta and Massasoit Street are right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Wamsutta and Massasoit. I grew up in the Flint. You know, I lived on Alden Street and Quikasham Street. So, you know, I mean, yeah, let's that intersection is so totally these bullets are fly. Well, you know, this is the thing. Murals, you know, these things are like they're trying to like, you know, gentrify this place. But look at play. You think you see a ton of murals in Newton? No. What they want to see is buildings and businesses, and you know, bring businesses on South. Instead of drawing a mural, build some affordable housing on that corner. You know where you see murals? East LA, where all the gangs are.
Detroit.
That's right. Where do you see boarded up things with graffiti on them? Not art. You can call it art all you want. One man's art is another man's graffiti. All this is crap. Show me one program, one initiative that Paul Coogan has done as the mayor to help the average person in Fall River. You can't. You can't. Like I said, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I already lost track. I was at the Our Lady of Light band. That's when he told Nelson, well, go, you know, you live in public housing, you know, in other words, you're not worthy. And then he said, oh, you want to discuss anything about housing, you should buy a house. Why should you buy a house? To discuss housing. Maybe someday you want to buy a house. Maybe you can buy a house. Does that eliminate your ability to speak about houses? No. But whenever Paul shows up at any meeting, the first thing out of his mouth is, oh, let's not be negative. Let's not talk about anything I don't want to talk about. And that's his con. He doesn't want to hear anything negative. He doesn't want the people to say how they feel. He's the freaking mayor. You're supposed to tell the people, give it to me with both barrels. I want to know what your concerns are. But the fact is, he doesn't care about your concerns. Think about it. Think about it. When things don't go his way, he's not pretty Paulie. He jumps out of his car and screams at a woman. That could be called, who said that? Who accused Kevin Aguirre? Verbal abuse. That could be verbal abuse. Oh my God. Is she going to accuse the mayor of being verbally abusive? In that case, it actually was, because this was a citizen. You have the right to verbally abuse a politician. I'm sorry, but that it's not my opinion. It was the Supreme Court of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts' opinion. You can go there and call them anything you want. And most of the time, they deserve it. But that's the irony. You know, Paul always tries to play St. Paul. Oh, we're just here to talk about the positive things. And, oh, yeah, and let me manipulate the numbers. Nobody can correct me. That United Faith Council didn't allow anybody to get up there to bitch. And that's what these meetings are supposed to be. Why have a meeting about an important subject without allowing the people to speak? I mean, they probably got cops at the door now trying to prevent homeless people from showing up at the council meeting again because they were totally embarrassed They talked about they were embarrassed for them. No, they were embarrassed for themselves, because those people who had the courage to show up to the city council meeting were an example of what they have allowed to happen in this city.
What they're creating.
That's right. They're not only creating it, they're enabling it. They're supporting it. They're encouraging it. Back to you, see. CJ, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Back to you. That's okay.
Sorry about that. I just thought you were taking a drink.
I was hydrating. It's hot.
You're hydrating. That's right. You're hydrating. Yeah, so remember, as Mr. X said, let's take the bullets and put them in the intersection. Maybe we'll make a statement. And while we're talking about crime, shootings, and whatnot, and housing, I had a stabbing right here, Warren and Manchester Street, right next to the park. Imagine that, next to the park where the kids go eat lunch. It happened at 1 o'clock. Person was stabbed several times. I guess that stabbing counts because it went into somebody. It's like the bullets. They don't count unless they go into somebody. We got to stop. We've got to stop. And yeah, you're right. Smoke is coming out of the roof, and Paul says, don't worry about it. He needs to go because he's just taking up space. He's taking up space and walking away with $250,000.
Yeah.
$250,000. And look at what he's doing. Nothing.
But let's look at the lunacy of what they tell us to believe. And that's what I'm saying. People are going to get out and show them, the rebellion's got to set that we're not that stupid. The Democrats want to talk about January 6th like it was 9/11. And they're allowing people they just had a whole people destroy a building over in California, and they're not going to do anything because they're protesting Palestine because they're their voter base. But you realize the lunacy of what they do. They don't educate our children, so their answer is to lower the standards and ignore the fact that these kids are basically becoming functional illiterates. Crime is running rampant all over the United States. What's their solution? Well, New York City, if nobody gets hit by a bullet, they don't classify it as a shooting. 44% difference between FBI stats and New York stats. FBI watering down the stats. Why? Biden's running on the fact that he's reduced crime. I don't know how he's reducing crime. Every other day you see a murder, a rape. Illegals, they raped a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old. 2 women have been murdered in the last 3 weeks by illegals. Nothing. They can't even say their names. Mayorkas got on there and said the woman who was murdered, who had 5 children, she said, our heart goes out to the family of that person. That woman didn't even know the name. You really think they give a damn? They sure as hell knew George Floyd's name. Say his name. That's what they chanted. And all the other names they wanted to chant. But when it comes to people who were murdered by illegals and they don't want to admit that it's their fault, Joe Biden should be prosecuted for those rapes and murders. Him and Mayorkas. As far as I'm concerned, they should go to jail. They are accessories before, during, and after the fact to those rapes and murders. They're letting that, and every single one of those perpetrators was stopped at the border and then let loose into the United States. And the one murdered, the woman, Lauren, who had 5 children, had an arrest warrant for murder in Ecuador. and they let them in a country. And this is what they see. This is what they do. They change the rules. Oh, now we're not going to have any unless somebody gets stabbed. We're not going to call it a stab. And if the guy tries to stab somebody and misses, we're not going to count it. If the guy doesn't hit anybody, it's not a shooting. We're going to reclassify everything. We're going to knock them down, felonies down to misdemeanors, so we don't have to say we're having a lot of felonies. Now you can break into a store, steal $999 worth of goods in some states, and you don't get charged. And if you do get charged, it's a misdemeanor. I'm not a lawyer, and I forgot. I'll be perfectly truthful. I know a lot of numbers, but that's one number I don't know. When does the amount that you steal go from a misdemeanor to a felony? There used to be an amount in the law.
I think it's $1,200 now in Massachusetts.
Yeah, it used to be a lot lower.
It used to be $500.
Yeah, there you go. So they changed the rules. Now it's $1,100. You go into a store, you knock out, you get $1,099 worth of shit. You throw the other tube of toothpaste back into the middle of the store, and you run out. And if they lock you up, they go, okay, no bail. See you later, misdemeanor. Goodbye. And they go, yeah, crime's going down. Well, as the guy said who made all those stats that I read, believe your eyes. Do you feel safe? Nowhere in this country does anybody feel safe anymore. Nowhere. That woman was murdered in a very, very quiet, small, suburban community by an illegal. And, you know, these rapes have happened in major cities and quiet cities. Nobody's safe anymore. I heard recently that they're releasing them into Montana and these other places. Well, I'll tell you what, yeah, those illegals that went to Montana, you better watch it. Montana's not a blue state. They got real
guns.
They got real governors, and everybody in Montana and Wyoming and North Dakota and South Dakota, they all got guns. And you go over, you try that stuff over there, you will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. I can guarantee you, if you do that, you know, if you rape a 12-year-old and videotape it, be prosecuted to the full extent of the law in one of these states. So I guess the migrants they really don't like, they send to those states because they're not going to last very long. But look, they change the rules, and then they tell you, believe what we're lying to you. Believe that we're going to give you internet that we don't. Believe that we're going to build charging stations that we don't. Believe that we're going to build affordable housing because we earmarked the money, even though we haven't for 5 years as Cougar. We built minuscule amount. So don't believe your lying eyes, people. Believe their political bullshit. With that, CJ, back to you.
I mean, I don't know if you read some of these comments, but I mean, people are obviously upset. And we know that because we hear it all the time. And like you said, a bunch of wood over some broken windows and some fancy art or graffiti or whatever you want to call it isn't going to rectify the problem. As a matter of fact, the gentleman who wants to do that in the Flint is entering a building, received the keys to the building, and the building owner went to the insurance company to get insurance, and they told him how much it was going to cost, and he says it's too expensive, so he walked away. So the building's uninsured. Hey, Paul, the building's uninsured. If somebody gets injured, is the city going to take responsibility? Are you going to take responsibility because you're endorsing this? Somebody's got to take responsibility. It's uninsured. Injuries mean lawsuits. I'm sure Rob Levine is going to put his business card all over those boards before they're painted. Okay? That way, if somebody gets hurt there, they have a lawyer to call.
All I want to know, CJ, is they're getting 25 grand for one mural. What are they getting for painting all that plywood?
Well, they're not getting anything. According to what they're doing is...
Yeah, you're right.
the person who is doing this is taking $2 from every sale of his branded products, $2 from every sale, and putting it towards paint, brushes, and pizza. And pizza is the most important thing to feed the volunteers. They're all volunteers.
Yeah.
They could be
Okay.
volunteers, but I'll tell you right now, I know somebody, and you know this because I lived with it for over a year. I know somebody that went into a building that was uninsured, and vacant, and they fell through the floor and broke their leg in several places, and they were responsible for the medical bills. They were responsible for the medical bills. They were responsible for the lost wages. And guess what? Who's
Yeah.
going to take responsibility for it this time? Because it's known. It's known.
Well, isn't it
And this
amazing?
owner is allowing them to enter the building. He gave them the keys.
Isn't it amazing how they always cloak this political bullshit and altruism? I'm taking $2. You're not getting something down the road. We all know that a city councilor, he admitted it when I pressed him on it. He's been promised a job in a housing authority to boost
That's
his
right.
pension up by a massive amount.
Right.
So he's going to vote the way he needs to vote. He's never ever going to disagree with the dictator, because he's getting something on the other end. Look, altruism is highly overrated. That's like saying George Soros has an interest in the United States by putting in DAs to let criminals out on the street all the time and destroy our society. Yeah, he does have an agenda, and it's not the best interests of the United States. These people all got some iron in the fire. There are the real true altruists are people like Mother Teresa. Those are the people who are really doing something for nothing. Not the people who say, well, I'm going to do this, but I'm getting in with the mayor. And we all know how much this mayor's giving out. I'm getting in with the right mayor. This guy's giving away more than any other mayor in the history of the city. So I'm getting in with him. I'm going to do it for $2. Sure you are. Okay. You want to sling that line? Some people may believe it, but most people aren't. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I think a lot of people, if Jason got out of jail tomorrow and they had a recall, I think he'd get elected this time over him, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Even Sean Kadim would probably vote for Jazel. He said he was a better administrator, right, CJ?
He was. He was. And he saved the city money. Granted, he was pocketing it, but he saved the city money. You can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. And I'll tell you now, it's true. This city is in chaos. This city is in chaos. And we, the people, are the only ones that can change that chaos to stability. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice and ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense,
And
promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of the liberty. We haven't gotten that. Some reason the Constitution don't mean anything.
Wait a minute. You got to finish it. For ourselves and our posterity. And I don't have it in front of me either.
That's right.
That means for the people who come after us. The people in Fall River need all these things so their families, their posterity can live in an ordered society. But look, all we get from these blue state yo-yos is empty promises and propaganda. Yeah, they really release. Yeah. Look, I'm going to tell you something. I would take one of the Muppets for a mayor. They got
As
my
opposed
vote.
to Paul, that's for sure.
My philosophy has been anybody but him.
That's right. That's right. And sooner or later, we're going to pay the price. And we know we're going to pay the price All you have to do is look at this week, the budget hearings last week. Okay? Michelle Dion brought up the fact that there's a position not in city ordinance that was hired with ARPA money, like so many others. Not in city ordinance. And what did Seth Akins say? If you don't approve the line item, the person will go without a check. You'll put them out of work. Not our problem. That's Paul's problem because that's what he did. That's what he did. I don't want to put people out of work. You don't want to put people out of work. But when you ignore the law, like Paul has done numerous times, I follow the law. My ass. When you ignore the law, there are consequences. The problem is this administration can't find the consequences.
Yeah, but there's no law, CJ. This is a regime. This isn't a government. It's a regime. And remember, Paul Coogan spent his entire life in the school department. He doesn't know anything about what's happening in the city. Remember when we used to get SAFER grants?
Yes.
For firefighters, it was in the federal grant that at the end of that grant, the city would have to assume the salaries of these people, and they had to keep them on the payroll. So they had to make considerations for that. Those people could not, it was in the grant. When Paul Coogan hired all these people, they were all his pals. And he knew damn well they're going to run out of that money and we got no money. So what's his answer? Violate the law. Unfortunately, what should have happened, and I don't like to see anybody lose their job, but the reality is those jobs should have never been created in the first place. Because when they were created, just like with the SAFER grant, they told you, you got X amount of years, and the amount of people we're funding is going to incrementally go lower until it goes to zero. During that period, as a community, you have to find out and figure out a way to pay for these jobs. If you want us to give you the money for them up front, you got to figure out how to pay for them when the money runs out. Paul Coogan just took the money, put all his friends to work and said, screw it. I'm not going to look for a way to fund them. We're just going to fund them anyway. And we're going to say, oh, you don't want to lay this person off? Well, Paul, you should pay their salary. You're the one who put them on. The city council didn't look for ways to pay them.
That's right.
Let them pay the damn thing. Let them forfeit their salaries and pay the salary. Seth Akins, they're going to go without a paycheck. Why? Is it the taxpayers' fault? Hell no. It's your fault, you bozos. Like Biden, $42 billion for internet, no internet yet. 3 years later, nobody's got internet. They just keep spending money, appropriating money, not using it, and then it disappears. Look, I don't want to see somebody lose their job. But guess what? What did the city do to figure out how to fund these jobs? They should have been doing that as soon as they created them, before they created them. Just like with the SAFER grant. When we took SAFER grants to the fire department, you knew how many people you were getting. You knew you had to keep them on a job, and you knew that money was going to run out, and you had to make provisions for it. Otherwise, you were liable. But the city has no liability. But Paul Coogan and his regime says the laws are only good when they're in our benefit. But if they interfere with my friends getting paid, screw the law. And if you're happy with that, well, vote for Paul. That's all I can tell you. So there's nothing else you can say. I don't want to see people lose their jobs. But who made them lose their job? The council and the mayor. They put those jobs on, and nobody said a peep in the council about how we're going to fund these. Michelle did, just like with the contract when they said, how are you going to fund it at the end? Oh, we're looking at some investments. That's horseshit. So, hey, it is what it is. Back to you, CJ.
Mr. X is absolutely right. The next mayor has to show all of Coogan's baggage with budgetary incompetence before going into a new direction. That way, the administration doesn't get blamed for Coogan's incompetence. And I agree. All these new mayors always take credit for all the good things. Okay? Like Paul taking credit for the train. that we're not getting. But but they don't take credit for the bad things. That's the last guy's fault. Well, you know what? When you come into office, clean up the last guy's problems. Clean them up. If that means you got to lay people off, you lay them off. If you got to ask for their resignation, ask for their resignation. It's not a popular phrase. It's not a popular campaign to run on. But I'll tell you now, if we don't do it, the receiver will do it. And the receiver will say, all of you people need to go. All of these contracts need to go. We're going to raise your taxes 50% more because your previous mayor spent money like a drunken sailor. That's what happens. Receivership is not fun.
Well, you're right, and the thing is, it's about the accountability. But Mr. X is right. We need to identify every single thing, every single job he created. But the first thing we need to do is remember one thing. You brought up a point. Paul Coogan took credit for it, but his boss, his puppeteer, Kenny Fiola, admitted they've been working on this for 30 years. 30 years ago, Paul Coogan was walking around with his hands in his pocket with some babysitting students or something. So he's not taking credit for something they started by their own mouth. They've been working on for 30 years. So he had nothing to do with it, like they all.
And it's been 70 years since we've had a train. 70.
But let's get back to the reality of the next mayor. I will not vote for anybody for any office in this city unless part of their platform is that they support a full forensic audit of every single thing in this city. Not just the healthcare, not just the school department, city side, a full forensic audit that lists every penny, where it's going, and then you can break it down and say, you see, he got we're paying all these people that should have never been hired. Like I said, we talked about the election board. Got 7 people working here now. Years ago, we had far more people turning out to elections, and the most they ever had in there was 2 full-timers and a part-timer and a director. And then it went down to 1 full-timer, 1 part-timer, and a director. And I got that directly from a former head of the elections board. And they had a hell of a lot more people showing up at elections then than they do now. And so you tell me why they need 7 people, 7 full-time people working in elections when 1 was sufficient. So there you go. There's one of the first places you start when you're running for mayor. Why do we need 7 people? Why do we need a secretary who got a title like sanitary engineer, but in this case chief of staff, making over $100,000 a year? To do what? To tell the department heads how to run their department? She doesn't know crap about any of those departments. She's going to tell a fire chief how to run a fire department. She's going to tell DCM to run DCM. She's going to talk to these people. She's getting $100,000 when we're paying $100,000 to every department head to run their department. You and I know how that position was created. It was created to give the pay raise of a girlfriend of a former mayor.
That's right.
So next time you got a friend that's a janitor, tell him the next time he goes into collective bargaining, call himself a sanitary engineer and ask for a $40,000 pay raise. With that, CJ, back.
That's right, or act like a mechanic. Hey, remember, today's going to be a hot day. It's been fun being with you, but hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Try to stay out of the heat. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.